4 movies, 2 spin-offs, and an unspeakable amount of minions, the Despicable Me franchise is one of the most popular animated movie franchises of all time. It's like the Shrek series of the 2010s. With that said, it's time for us to do our thing and rank all of the noteworthy characters from the film saga from worst to best. Like usual, we'll start with those characters we just have nothing nice to say about. This is the F tier. Our bottom spot was a pretty easy choice. Miss Hattie is one of those characters who's just meant to be hated. It's pretty much an impossible feat to make a likable character out of one who tells an orphan to their face that she'll never be adopted. Thankfully, the movie does not try to. Verbally abusing children and forcing them into child labor are her only character traits, making her win our lowest spot in a landslide. We only have 2 other characters in the F tier. From the first sequel, we have Antonio. For the son of a guy as bombastic as El Macho, Antonio is an almost impressively bland character, but he has enough charisma to win over Marko instantly, which he uses to his advantage by asking her to be his date at his father's party, only to cheat on her at said party. That's cold, man. Kind of like you. Rounding out the bottom category is the Carney from the first movie. Sure, he has a minor role, but can you blame us for placing him so low anyway? The man runs an elaborately rigged carnival game and takes way too much pleasure in telling a little girl that she didn't win the unicorn plushie she was pining after.
Ooh, better luck next time.
Hopefully this jerk got knocked over into a different line of work. Now let's move on to the less despicable characters in the ensemble cast. These are the D tier characters, the ones who have at least some redeeming qualities. First up is Gru's busybody friend, Jillian. Throughout the second movie, she constantly tries to set Gru up with her friends, even pitching one whose husband just died, which is a whole new level of insensitivity.
Oh, I know someone whose husband just died.
We'll give her some credit for at least trying to do something nice, though, even if she's painfully oblivious to the fact that Gru just doesn't want to date random women he's never even met before. What a coincidence, Gru, I did not see her there either. Another minor character, this time from the first movie, is Fred. Gru's next door neighbor is a nice enough guy, even if his dog occasionally does his business on Gru's lawn. That's just what dogs do, unless they're dead.
You know dogs, they go wherever they want to go.
Unless they're dead.
Seriously though, Fred, just potty train your dog already, or at least pick up after him. Next, we have our first characters introduced in the fourth movie, Perry and Patsy Prescott. This is really shaping up to be the neighbors category, isn't it?
Hello! I'm your new neighbor! Just come in.
These two stand out from the last two by neither being nosy nor overly nice to their neighbors. In fact, Gru is the one butting in on their business much of the time, albeit with good intentions, and the sheer lack of interest on their part is pretty funny. They seem kinda stuck up, but we wouldn't say anything they do or say warrants a lower placement. And rounding out this category, we have the matriarch of the Gru family, Marlena Gru. Obviously, she loses a lot of points for her verbal abuse towards Gru. From openly favoring Drew to insulting all of Gru's motivations and dreams, she's a pretty terrible mother, and somehow she's deluded enough to think that she's a great one. The literal one time she says anything nice to Gru is at the end of the first movie, where she tells him that she's proud he became a good parent just like her. Yeah, if nothing else, at least she plays a crucial role in the story, and as mean as she is, she can be kind of funny. Now we enter the middle of the road tier for the characters who don't particularly stand out one way or another. This is the C tier. Kicking off this category, we have a victim of circumstance, Nico. When Lucy pressures Marko to take a piece of cheese from Nico's plate, he's ecstatic, which initially they just think is because he didn't feel excluded from the cheese festival. It turns out that in his culture, taking a piece of cheese is equivalent of taking an engagement ring. Yeah, he got clingy with Marko quickly, but I guess cultural differences are just like that. Next is another minor character, Floyd Eagleson. As the owner of the Eagle Hair Club, when Gru comes by to investigate his shop, Floyd is more than happy to show him around and let him look at all the merchandise. Unfortunately for Floyd, Gru wouldn't be making any wig purchases, and later on he'd end up arrested after being framed by El Macho. It's a true shame, really. Hair like that should never be caged. He may not be a unicorn, but Lucky is pretty magical too. Does he do literally anything of importance in either movie he's in? No. Is he a cute little guy who makes Agnes happy? Yes. Sometimes you don't really need to have a huge role to be a good character. All you need to be is a silly little guy. And when you add a little bit of aggression to that mix, you get Gru's dog, allegedly, Kyle. This guy's an absolute mystery. What is he? Where did he come from? What are his motivations? Why does his pee kill plants? All these questions and more will probably never be answered. But sometimes a weird mutant dog thingy is a fun addition to your ensemble cast. Really, my only critique of Kyle is that we don't see more of him. It's cute that he ends up bonding with the girls, though. Speaking of girls, it's time to talk about the first supervillain of our list, Valentina. The girlfriend of Maxime Lemal, she takes the backseat to her partner more often than not. That's not to say there's anything wrong with her, aside from the whole villain thing. It's just that for one of the main villains of the movie, she doesn't really do much of anything. She does have a really cute dog, though, so props for that. The movie's other secondary antagonist, Principal Ubel Schlecht, fares a little better. She takes the cyborg man approach of having a badass high-tech wheelchair to fight her foes with. It's complete with spiky monster truck wheels and Doc Ock-styled arms. It's just a shame that she gets sidelined when Gru and Poppy go after Maxime. That fight between her and Lucy would have been fun to see in full. Closing out the C tier, we have one last group of criminals, the Nelsons. These guys are the lovely family of burglars who pick up Kevin, Stuart, and Bob to take them to Villain Con. There's just something needlessly hilarious about a family of bank robbers who are genuinely nice people, more than willing to give complete strangers a ride.
I knew you were villains, didn't I, honey? What a small world.
Not to mention seeing the father cock a legitimate gun in an Illumination movie. Another perk is that oftentimes these villain families tend to be at each other's throats, but these guys genuinely love each other. It's actually pretty darn refreshing. But with that, we've officially entered the upper half of the tiers. This is the B tier. Kicking off this category is Master Chow, pun entirely intended. Despite looking like she's about to start narrating a progressive commercial, the only thing this lady is ensuring is your right to defend yourself.
I am a master of the ancient Shaolin art of Kung Fu.
She befriends the minions quickly, giving them the training they need to protect Gru from his enemies. There isn't too much else to say about her. She's a helping hand and a helping foot, too. Kicks are important as well. Now let's start on Gru's found family, and its newest addition, Gru Jr. This little guy had it out for his daddy for a while, and as hilariously malicious as it seemed, it's still worth noting that he's just a baby. It's hard not to laugh at him attempting to cause Gru to crash his car, but it's equally hard to not appreciate the times he managed to help Gru out. From turning off the security lasers at Lycée Pasban to saving him during the final showdown with Maxime. From Gru's youngest kid to his oldest, next is Marko. Admittedly, she has the least personality out of the girls. She's not as cutesy as Agnes nor as chaotic as Edith, but Marko has a lot of heart. She's a pretty great older sister, always there to comfort and protect her siblings however she can. We do have a small qualm with her though. While she has some decent storytelling potential, it never feels like it's fully fleshed out. This is especially true in the fourth movie, where she's set up to be worried about losing her old friends during the relocation. A plotline that's brought up once more. Like, that's it. She doesn't do anything else. I can't help but feel like that's a waste. But it can't be easy to focus on like 20 characters at once, such as Poppy Prescott, an aspiring villain who wants to attend Gru's alma mater. And admittedly, 4 villains to take into consideration would have been a bit much for one movie, so it's good that Poppy ends up having a surprising amount of heart. She doesn't back down from her dreams of villainy and heists, but she proves herself to have a good heart. When Gru's family is paid an unwilling visit by Maxime and Valentina, she's the one to warn Gru and provide him with a ride to rescue Gru Jr. As if that weren't enough, she's also trained a cat to play DDR like a professional, which is pretty impressive. From a good-hearted villain to a team of truly evil villains, next we have the Vicious 6. Or 5, I guess. We'll admit, it takes a certain amount of talent to make us hate a group of villains so early into the movie. They have fun names, powers, and designs, sure, but they also betray their oldest friend and leader after having him do their dirty work for them.
The Vicious 6 has a new head honcho.
While that makes them objectively awful people, it makes them some pretty solid villains, the kind you're itching to see taken down throughout the whole movie. This might be controversial, but we've decided to place the minions here. No, not all of them, but the seeming hive mind that makes up the majority of them. The minions are a divisive group of characters. On one hand, they're cute, they can be quite funny, and I'm gonna say it, the Minions movies overall are perfectly decent. But on the other hand, well, sometimes there can be a little too much of a good thing. As fun as the Minions are, sometimes it can feel like they take the spotlight away from other characters. The name is comic relief for a reason after all, but the real reason they're so low is pretty obvious. How could you monsters not help the one who got stuck in the vending machine? If only the Mega Minions had been there. Sure, these guys basically exist solely to crank out more Minion merchandise, but honestly, given how obvious Minions with superpowers as a concept is, we're just shocked they didn't do it sooner. It's just good business, really, and I want to shout out Mega Minion Mel in particular. His laser is powerful enough to power through the entire planet in a matter of seconds, reaching out to space to cut a satellite into pieces. I think we really need to reconsider the power scaling in the Despicable Me universe, but perhaps that's a discussion for another day. If your property was damaged by Mel's laser, you might qualify for a loan from Mr. Perkins. Just kidding, Mr. Perkins is the head of the Bank of Evil and therefore doesn't care for your property damage / reparations. Perkins is a pretty good antagonistic force. What's a more relatable villain than bankruptcy, after all? Given that this dude is massive, evil, and scariest of all, a banker, the constant threat of Gru proving himself worthy of a loan is all too real. Next, we have a quintessential example of the ideal male physique, Silas Ramsbottom. While he's technically just doing his job, he's helping a lot of good people in the process. In Despicable Me 4, he's forced to come out of retirement to help Gru and his family get to a safe place far away from Maxime Lamal. Of course, he also does questionable things like superhuman experimentation on the minions, but that ended up coming in handy, right? Maybe he should have increased their brain cell count, though. In any case, we've now entered the most honorable tiers for the characters who really stand out. This is the A tier. First up is Gru's wannabe villain brother, Drew. Like many twin characters, Drew is the polar opposite of his brother. Whereas Gru is a skillful villain who's left that life behind, Drew is a clumsy wannabe who's, well, He's not a professional villain.
Help me! Ow! Ow! I'm okay!
Though his dynamic with Gru and his family is genuinely quite sweet, you've gotta love just how seamlessly he takes on the role of an uncle to the girls. And come on, the guy is amazing here. We've gotta give credit where it's due. Now it's time to talk about the manliest man to ever man, El Macho. Right away, he has one of the absolute greatest character designs in the franchise. He looks like Mario's buff Hispanic uncle, and we mean that in the best way possible. On top of that, El Macho is just a fun character to watch, whether he's dancing to unlock the door in his secret lair or riding a shark into an active volcano. While he isn't the best villain in the series, Maxime Le Mal is still a pretty darn good one, and undeniably the most evil. Seriously, from mutating innocent people for no reason to a plan that begins and ends with kidnapping your high school rival's baby, this guy's an absolute menace. Also, we've got to appreciate the more meta aspects of his character. This could be a stretch, sure, but making the villain of the fourth movie themed around a cockroach, who is notorious for being unkillable, is genuinely really funny, even if it wasn't intentional. On the topic of absolute menaces, next is a more endearing one. Edith. She's the tomboy of the girls, which is ironic since she's the one wearing the most pink, but you'd do well to not judge a book by its cover. Edith is a skilled ninja in training who Gru occasionally has to instruct to try to not kill anybody.
Edith, try not to kill anyone.
But her assassination talents aren't used for evil, worry not. In the fourth movie, she takes down an overzealous martial arts instructor for the crime of making Agnes upset. An edgy tomboy is great, but an edgy tomboy with a soft spot for their sibling? That's how you make them memorable, baby. Landing just outside of the top 10 is our boy Otto. See, I told you guys there were more minions in higher tiers. Otto is a character in Rise of Gru, and he's a bit of an outcast. The other minions do not like this guy, and it's understandable why. He did trade the medallion for a pet rock, which led to Gru getting into hot water, but he worked just as hard to get it back. Kicking off the top 10 is Gru's wife, Lucy Wilde-Gru. Gru's partner in crime stopping, Lucy is an enthusiastic agent who loves her job and her family. She just oozes positivity in general, but it never takes away from her doing her job. She manages to kidnap Gru pretty easily simply by shouting her gadgets' names after she uses them rather than before, and that's only the start of a surprisingly sweet love story.
Your lipstick taser.
Yeah, it's just a memento.
In the third and fourth movies, we see more of her bonding with Gru and the girls, and while she makes mistakes for sure, she always comes across as a loving, caring mother who will jump headfirst into danger to protect her kids from harm. Good girls are great, but we ask you, doesn't it feel so good to be bad? Scarlet Overkill would say so, and as a villain famous for being unapologetically evil, who could blame her? Scarlet is a great people person, able to use her charisma to charm the pants off of everyone around her so she can use them later. This is most noticeable in how she treats the minions. She acts as a motherly figure towards them right from the get-go, only to end their first day as her servants with a threat to their lives, thinly veiled as a bedtime story.
Good luck getting that crown tomorrow, little piggies.
Scarlet isn't your average kids movie villain. She's legitimately insane, to the point where even thinking they've betrayed her was enough for her to sentence the minions to lifelong torture in the dungeon. You gotta appreciate that level of evil. Following Scarlet is none other than her better half, Herb Overkill. Sure, he's an accomplice to Scarlet's crimes by acting as her inventor, but that doesn't mean he's nearly as bad. Herb can be surprisingly nice and down to earth. He even seems to befriend the minions when torturing them proves to be a fruitless endeavor, showing that he can be a chill guy when the situation allows for it.
Are we comfy? Doesn't matter! This is torture!
What earns him such a high spot is that, despite being far less malicious and seemingly way more mentally stable than Scarlet, Herb still never betrays her. Scarlet loves Herb, and the feeling is mutual, and the fact that they have a genuinely loving, supportive relationship despite their clear differences is enough for us to call them some of the series' best antagonists. But while Herb is a great evil scientist, he can't hold a candle to Dr. Nefario, the inventor of the notorious fart gun. Despite his occasional lack of hearing capabilities, Nefario is an invaluable asset to Gru's team. In the first movie, he builds various gear like cookie robots that help Gru steal the shrink ray, and when he suspects that Gru's relationship with the girls is getting in the way of his work, he takes care of it by calling the orphanage to take them back.
I did it for your own good. Come on, let's go get that moon.
Despite all this, at the end of the day, Nefario is a friend first and foremost. He ends up helping Gru get the girls back and continues to help him throughout the remainder of the saga. Heck, in Rise of Gru, it's revealed that he's the one who connected Gru with the Vicious Six, showing that he's always happy to help newcomers to the villain scene, and ultimately to accept their decisions to change their ways. Nefario is a good friend, and that's enough to earn him a pretty high spot just outside of our top tier. This category, though, is reserved for the best of the best. This is the S tier. Kicking off this category, we have just one secondary character in a sea of main ones, Otto's biker buddy from Minions Rise of Gru. Look, this guy's just too nice to not give a top tier position. He took Otto under his wing with zero hesitation, gave him his medallion and a ride to San Francisco to rescue Gru, and most importantly, gave him the first real genuine friend he made throughout the whole movie. These two have such a weirdly wholesome relationship, and it comes from a character who doesn't even have a name. If this were a friendship tier list, he'd almost undoubtedly be number 1. But it's time to enter the top 5, and I'd feel like a bad boy if I didn't give Balthazar Brat a high position.
Heist music!
Seriously, Brat is a weirdly great antagonist, especially in concept. The idea of a child star completely snapping once Hollywood suddenly decides it wants nothing to do with him? Fire! The idea of said child star embracing the character he played on TV and planning to use merchandise and plotting to pull off some of his crimes? Peak supervillainy. Many consider Despicable Me 3 to be the weakest of the trilogy, now quadrilogy, but whether you agree with that or not, you gotta admit Balthazar Brat is a surprisingly good villain who poses a genuine threat both to Gru, whose pursuit of him caused him to lose his job, and to Hollywood at large, which he plotted to send into space. Also, come on, that design is just too hilarious to not be top 5 material. Landing just outside of the top 3, we ironically have a group of 3, Kevin, Stuart, and Bob. These minions star in their namesakes spin-off movies, and as a result, there are some mixed opinions on them. But you know what, as far as minions go, these little guys are the best. Kevin is a devoted leader who's willing to sacrifice his life to save his tribe, from searching the earth for the perfect boss to taking a nuke to the stomach so they wouldn't have to. Stuart, the aspiring celebrity that he is obsessed with fame, fortune, and ladies. Or the fire hydrants. What the heck, love is love, man. And finally, there's Bob, who's just plain adorable. Come on, don't tell me I'm the only one who thought it was sweet how he gave Scarlet his teddy bear's crown as a parting gift.
For me?
These 3 have surprising amounts of personality for minions, and they're much more consistently tolerable than most of the others. As great as these 3 are, there are 3 more characters we feel deserve the honor of the podium of greatness, though. For the Bronze Medal of Greatness, we have the only character whose cuteness can rival Bob's, Agnes. She's a simple character. She's cute. She likes fluffy unicorns, fairy princesses, and her family. Really, we could end it right there, but Agnes takes the usual dose of cuteness and pumps it full of steroids.
I'm pure in heart, right?
Every movie, without fail, there were always so many moments where the kids steal the spotlight and make you say, "Aww," until your lungs shrivel up. Whether it's her fear of unicorns not being real, her attempts to matchmake Gru and Lucy, or even just her playing with her siblings and pets, Agnes is like the movie form of cotton candy. So sweet, you almost get sick of it. That said, the reason she's so high up goes beyond that cuteness. She's also more or less the heart of Gru's character and redemption arc. Who invited Gru to the recital that kickstarted his redemption? Agnes. Who inspired Gru to go for a relationship with Lucy? Agnes. Who gave away all her belongings from piggy bank coins to stuffed unicorns just to help her family out? Agnes. She's a ride-or-die daughter who always wants to help out, and if you can be all of that on top of being cute as a button, then you've earned a top 3 spot in our book. But the top 2 ought to be fairly obvious by now, so our runner-up is none other than the first movie's main antagonist, Vector. Not to be confused with Victor Perkins, completely different guy, but it's a common mistake.
Victor was my nerd name. Now I am Vector.
No, this is Vector, a man whose only saving graces are his brain, his charisma, and the uncanny ability to make orange a flattering color.
Are you wearing pajamas?
These aren't pajamas. This is a warm-up suit.
Vector is one of those delightful villains who's just unapologetically awful. There's no tragic backstory here, nor is there some overarching ambition to take over the world or anything. Vector just wants to commit crimes with both direction and magnitude in order to direct, and magnitude, the entire world's eyes towards himself and his dirty deeds. On top of having unrivaled dance moves, godlike confidence, and an arsenal of weapons that would make Batman break a sweat, Vector has the beautiful combination of both pure evil and genuine fun. He's a villain you want taken down, especially with how meaningless his crimes are and how he's willing to stoop so low as to kidnap 3 children, but he's the kind who will crack you up while you're waiting for his defeat. With such a great antagonist, you gotta wonder who could possibly outrank the legendary Vector? Okay, no you don't. It was never a contest. Gru has knocked over the other competitors and claimed the gold medal of greatness.
I got the shrink ray.
Gru, like Vector, was both fun and diabolical upon his debut. The difference mainly is that he has much more character development. Despite living his whole life trying to win his mother's love and pride through extravagant crimes, Gru remained sad and empty until 3 little kittens, girls, walked into his life. But even during his villain arc, it was always clear that Gru had a heart behind that despicable persona. He was the kind of guy that would pop kids as balloon animals, freeze the people in front of him in a coffee shop's line, and then some, but he was also the kind who would treat his minions with respect, knowing all of them by name, and would even stick up for a little girl who just got scammed out of her plush unicorn at a carnival game. Ultimately, Gru redeems himself by becoming a father to the 3 girls, giving up his dreams of villainy to support and encourage them. But even though he's a good guy from then on, Gru is still an absolute savage when he needs to be. From freezing Antonio as payback for standing up Margot, to clearing the air with Maxime that he did steal his talent show performance idea, Gru is the definition of chaotic good, really. He'll commit crimes like it's nothing, but he's not out to hurt anyone, he's out to enjoy life with his wife, his girls, his boy, and his minions. Gru is a chaotic man, but he's a good man, and with both heart and hilarity in his arsenal, he's an easy pick for us as the Despicable Me franchise's greatest character.